How you doing? Glad you're back. Part 2, 372. No numbers changed in the cylinder video. This is interesting for me. It's a refreshing build. I told you, after the port work, I have my transfers all done. I did rough my intake up, but I deliberately stayed away from the inside the cylinder edge of the intake to show you that I did not do any grinding on them ports as far as the roof of the exhaust. I didn't raise the transfers, and I also didn't take any off the floor of the intake. So here's what I'm going to try to do. If I can do this. See that little dark ring around the bottom of the intake? Right there. You can't get it that way. Okay, I can exhaust though, can I? Okay, same thing. I widened that slightly, just slightly. But if you see the roof of the exhaust, I left the carbon and everything. I didn't take anything. Transfers. Did not do anything on the uppers, period. Okay? I'm not even going to check the timing numbers. Why would I? Because what would happen? Oh, I don't want to do that. Let me just tickle it. We're not going to do that. We're just going to put it together. Okay. Now, here's the hairy one. Okay. Seriously, this is why it's no joke. I've got this thinned ring. Okay. You already seen the weights of the piston and wrist pin. Wrist pin, a lot of you asked, what is that wrist pin? It was a tiny, thin little thing, wasn't it? That's real light. That is out of an early 046 steel. That's what that wrist pin is. They're 52 millimeter bore, but steel inherently has a shorter wrist pin compared to bore size. That fits in a 50 millimeter Husky just fine. Okay, we have our piston prep is all done. I'm ready to put this together. I'll show you little bits and squirts of this. That's my thin ring. Right here's my thick one. Here's my thin one. This is my low tension. As long as I didn't screw this up, this is going to make an amazing running saw. We're going to know real fast if that's too thin. I know it's not. But if there's a deviation in the cylinder, well, you know where that adds. You won't get nothing to seal. But it looks nice to me. I mean, you can't tell by looking. I did hone this, okay? I want you to know that. I honed that cylinder because that had quite a shiny glaze on it. Yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and put a freaking used ring in it, right? Okay, but this is really just an example. This will not give you what full bag port work does. It won't. But I'll tell you what it does do. It makes a really nice running saw. Now, I really want just a nice running saw of this. Top ring only. So let's put this ring in. I didn't bother checking my ring gap, guys, because it ran in the cylinder. It's the same ring that come out of the cylinder. Okay, so now what I got to do is I got to get my intake on and all that. So let me get that done, and we'll pop this booger together. What do you think? Well, let's see if we can do this. As you can see, there's the one thin ring on here. If I have trouble with this, I'm just going to have to shut it off and fight with it. But I shouldn't have too much trouble, I think. Okay, so I'm going to capture the back side of the ring. Push in one side. All I got to do is get the other side now. And what I did was I dropped my dirty little screwdriver. So, okay, capture the front. Almost got it. It's almost done. I like this to just cooperate just a little more than it is. Whoop. Okay. Last check my base gasket. Get my impulse out of the way. Well, you do something long enough, you get good at it. But you know, if that would have been the factory tension ring, that would have wanted to, you know, give me a bit of a bugger. 2 rings is, I gotta have a ring compressor for that. It's on the other bench, but I could have grabbed it. But I just wanted you to see that there was a little bit of an aid in assembling this thing with a low tension ring. The next thing is whether the darn thing's got compression, eh? Yeah, you know. We'll know fast. I put the lightest little film oil after I put my engine assembly silicone on. You just wouldn't believe how light. Just light. Because if you got oil dripping down on your engine assembly silicone, guess what you did? You compromised one surface. You did. And it might not seal for you. It wouldn't seal for me. Okay, all I gotta do, get the rest of these in. And then we'll go get our starter cover and a spark plug, and we'll give it a few test pulls. I think we're going to have to do a muffler mod. I'm not putting a pipe on it at this point, you know, one of our homemade ones, because we would expect that would make a hell of a difference. I want to do it fairly close to what stock would have been. I figured just a muffler mod. It's getting the heat out. That's really what I'm more concerned about than anything. Without adding to. Probably after I run this, I ought to time it once I get an impression of the saw. But it's better if I don't, isn't it? It would be kind of neat to know what it was. I know the mail came, and we have some exciting new parts in the mail, supposedly, for a couple special builds coming up directly. Well, it rolls around. Okay, let me go find a starter cover. Okay, I got a muffler on. I don't have my tube in yet, but that's fine for what I'm doing. Just got to do 3 heat cycles. I did one just a few minutes ago. That's why it's all blue in the room. It made the room blue. Stable idle. That's what we want. I don't want something to screw with. This is going to be a personal saw that I'm going to really like to run for a lot of years, you know, off and on, you know. I mean, we run imported saws too. But let's just see, now that it's cooled down, if it'll start up without choke or high idle. Because that's cold. got success. What do you think? Guaranteed. Okay. Apparently our ring sealing, we'd know right now. We would. Thin little ring. 20 to 30% is what I reduced it, as I told you. What I need to do now is one more heat cycle at least, maybe two today. I want to run this in the wood tomorrow. I really do. And now there's things about this that I'm going to share with you in just a few minutes of why I knew this works. And it's going to be things that'll just blow your mind. It's going to take what you know about porting in some cases and give you that. I didn't think about that. That's what happened to me about 30 years ago. Well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, it took me 10 years of doing good work. At the time, good work. But now things are way different. I can tailor a saw to exactly what I want. I know how to make sure I don't knock the bearings out of the bottom end, even with bigger bore saws, big saws. I know how to do it. I know exactly what it takes. And I'll tell you how I learned it. You gotta break a few eggs. I'm sorry. Do your homework, do your math. Be prepared to break a few eggs. That or just listen to me. Okay. This probably will help a lot of people that want to port a saw, but are a little bit, I'm not really ready to start grinding and doing the numbers thing. Okay? Here's a perfect example. If you don't have to thin your ring, you can go to one ring, or if you want to run two, you can do that. Those are you'd have to be an experienced pro to really notice the difference. I mean, you would, as long as your chain was sharp. Listen, guys, I'm going to tell you something. This is the truth. A well set up, good sharp chain, even round filed, is worth more than a lot of port work. Okay? It really is. Because all the horsepower in the world, if that chain isn't right, it does you no good. I run stock saws for a lot of years while I was porting everybody else's. Yeah, it's a classic mechanic story, isn't it? Don't have time to do your own. Yeah, that's right. This is a lovely saw. It is my personal. I had got this probably 4 or 5 months ago, and it was supposed to be a good saw, but I didn't really know. Yeah, we found out cylinder was, I think I can say the cylinder, but the piston, blah, blah, blah. You've seen it. Okay, guys, here's the deal. Here's the real scoop. There is an awful lot of dribble on YouTube. There really is. You got to sort it out. I don't care what the subject is. You have to sort it out. This is what you got to do. So sort this one out too. It was very obvious in this video that there was no moving of the intake, transfers, or exhaust port. I widened the exhaust slightly. Probably a total of 3 millimeters. But I left that round. I didn't leave that square and cut off like factory, just to get my exhaust out a little quicker. I would expect we need to at some point put a timing wheel on this and see what we really got. I would expect my exhaust to be 105, maybe 106. My transfers probably open 24 degrees later. And I think my intake was probably just a wild guess because we did do a base gasket delete. I'm going to say probably 150 to 152, somewhere in there. Very, very, very mild. No pop-up. No machine work. Don't need it. Not for what I'm doing with this saw. Okay? Most of these don't need machine work on these 372s. I'll tell you that right now. Or the 272s even. in most cases. Once in a while you get an oddball cylinder, it's like, dang, what do I do with this? Okay, guess what? You do machine work. This channel is more about how to make something out of nothing, isn't it? How to get the numbers. How to play this silly freaking game that's played on YouTube. There's some bad information out there, really bad, from people that just don't know. They think they know, but you don't know. You don't know. You think. And I'm not calling anybody out. I really don't care to get into all that. You can sort it out yourself, can't you? You sure can. There's no one way to build a saw. Short blowdown, long blowdown, high exhaust roof, low exhaust roof. In this case right here, we end up with a fairly late exhaust opening. Okay, we did. Transfer timing is probably 24 degrees. And it might be 23. Who knows? Intake timing's fairly lazy. But we opened up them lowers. You've seen that. We did. We textured the intake. We put the little Drake intake fingers in. I don't know why everybody else calls them. Other porters use it, but they don't call it what it is. I'm the one that did it. You seen it here first. But I don't care to get the recognition from them because, quite honestly, their opinions doesn't matter to me in the first darn place. Some of them want to get along, some don't. But there's a group of them that I really, really, really don't like watching because I just cringe. You got to machine everything. Oh, you got to have this, and you got to have that, and you got to have low blowdown, you got to have high compression. Well, guess what? I'm going to go down that road for just a second just to make fun. This saw's got 225 compression. Okay? So, you hear it do this. Yeah, it just keeps rolling. Yeah, okay, you got your 175. That's what you got. You ain't fooling the rest of us. Don't even think you are. Okay, here's the scoop. Intake timing. It would be so freaking nice to have that intake open real early. But you can't in a work saw. Not if you want something. I would love to see this thing have just a real early intake. The problem is it closes late, okay? When you cross 160 in most 70cc and on-up saws for total opening, you start having tunability problems. And I'm going to explain exactly why that is. When you start opening your transfers and raising them to get a lower blowdown, you're not thinking about what's going on in that saw. First, if your exhaust isn't well opened up, or even if it is, you're risking getting exhaust gases back in the cylinder down your transfers because the pressure gradient is higher in the cylinder. When the transfers open, the exhaust isn't all the way out. Okay, I'm not taking that risk. I've seen it. You can't tell me it don't happen because it does. Makes a ring zingy bench saw. If you're cutting, popple about that bigger out or something, oh boy, it looks impressive as heck with a brand new chain. Oh yeah. Take that log and fall right on its ass in your bore cut. You won't like that. But they don't go logging. They've never made a nickel run in a saw in their friggin' life. The ones that preach this crap. And I'll hammer on them. I really will. Because I know better. I've been doing this a long time. Do you think I haven't done that? Oh, yeah. I push transfers real tight. Okay. They're thinking about what's going on above that piston. That's what they're thinking about. You'll never... I'm going to tell you the first time is right here, right now, that I explain what's going on underneath that piston. Your intake, when that piston's coming down, if that closes too late, you don't get, in the degrees of timing, you don't get the amount of pressure to push your air fuel above your piston, okay? So what happens is, if you run 152 instead of 162, that's 10 degrees. It's 10 degrees later that intake closes. It's just like your ring. When it passes that exhaust roof, from there on up is building compression, right? Well, when that piston skirt passes that intake floor to close, from there on, you're pressurizing your crankcase. Same, right? Why do I want to run real long intake timing when it does me no freaking good in a work saw? Now, if you're building a full tilt saw, all these rules are different, but I'm not going to get into none of that. So, at 152 degrees, I can pressurize my case faster, right? It has that many more degrees to be able to build crankcase pressure. Started up the transfers. When my piston crown clears them transfers, out it goes. We've done it late enough to guarantee exhaust gases are out and there's zero pressure. There may even be a little tiny bit of negative pressure above that piston if it's still out in the muffler. Because when that piston hits bottom dead center, your transfers open and finish shoving your exhaust gases out. They go right in the muffler with air-fuel mixture that is raw. So you have to make sure you're not mixing that by having just a little later transfer opening. Piston hits bottom dead center. The pressure in your exhaust is a little bit higher, not very much, than what your cylinder pressure is. So part of that charge comes back in. Just part. This is what it does. And it starts the process all over again. Now, if I open my transfers too close to my exhaust opening, you will mix exhaust gases. You might not know it. You might get lucky. Or when you take a saw back apart, you see this black-brown crap down the transfers. You're thinking, oh, there must be a seal leak or something. Oh, I got a bad ring. Well, guess what? That's not what's wrong. You've mixed exhaust gases with intake gases. Don't take that risk. I hope this kind of information is beneficial to you because I do enjoy sharing it with you. As I get older and I get closer to not wanting to do this anymore, I'll share more and more. But I want you to get it in steps and stages. Well, not one big gulp, a lot of little sips. Just kind of get the gist of this. It's really easy. Okay, I'm going to call this saw a win. Straight away, you're going to call it a win. I really think we got something here. And yes, I got my eyes in it. There was a lot of controversy when I first showed these screens. And apparently some of you in the comments think that this air injection or turbo in the exhaust in the Johnson Red actually produces pressure in the carburetor. No. What this air injection or turbo is it picks up air off the flywheel in like a little manifold and just lets it go by the air filter to try to get rid of some of the crap. Well, it's still in there. It doesn't come out. Okay. Now, to make this a perfect test with this particular saw, what we need to do is get rid of that manifold. So it's not picking air off the flywheel, right? I want you to look at the 298 and 2100s Huskies. I don't care if that's a few years older. It doesn't matter. They had screens in them top covers. They did. Just Google a picture of them. You'll see what I'm talking about. Dang, they didn't have air injection. Okay, as things progress, they come up with something that worked. But I'm going to tell you what I have noticed. I had one of these that didn't have it in when it was brand new, and I didn't know it. My air cleaner was fine. Husky hands down, kicks the butt out of any steel for air filtration. You know what most of it is, I believe? Steel air filters bolt on the back of the carb, got a little cover. And they have a vent underneath, and they just pick up crap. Just pick it up. Husqvarna, for a long time, has had the air cleaner go through an elbow and sit on top of the carburetor. It's automatically out of the crap. It really is. But if you took the air horn off of this saw, just drilled a couple holes, didn't have the screens, you'd find out by noon this air filter was plugged, just like the steels do. When I was logging with the steels, I logged with steels and Husqvarna equally. I can tell you that right now. The steels, if I cleaned them out at noon and then at night, I was good. I didn't have any problem with it. I was willing to do that. Okay? But when I started running the 371s and then the 372s, and I liked the air filtration a lot. Okay, we can enhance this because that little air, let's call it an air intake, that picks off the flywheel and moves that air across that filter to help clean it. It's got nowhere to go. These top covers ain't exactly sealed. They don't let no air out really either, not very much. Now what we've done is created a situation where we're letting the air out. Okay? Now there is other things to consider. One guy in a comment says, well, gee, you'd have the Husqvarna engineers just cringing, No, they knew. They knew exactly what they was doing. And just think about the benefits of these things. Just think about it. I'm going to tell you one thing that was nice. That 372 that I had that never had that little air horn that picked up off the flywheel, never give me fits in the winter, ever. It did not. It did not. Every other saw, when I got into certain conditions where it was high moisture, whether it's rain, sleet, snow, high humidity even, when you're going through snow and crap, it was pulling snow right in your side cover, right through that little air horn, right in and getting my air filter wet. And then I have to readjust my saw and not know why. And it took me a bit to figure this out. Wet air filters don't flow air, right? They don't. Well, I never really figured out what happened. That was only occasionally that happened, but we never stopped logging. It had to be 10 below zero and high winds before we'd quit. Now, I think I'd be a fair weather logger, right? It wasn't very fun sometimes, but we were still making a living. Okay? So, when I got that saw that didn't have that air horn installed from the factory, for some reason, it never caused any trouble in the snow or the rain or anything. It never got my air filter wet, never froze my carburetor up, because it was picking hot air up right next to that cylinder is what it was doing. And the saw run just, out of 5 or 6 saws on one crew, it was the only one who'd keep running it out on them days with that carbs want to freeze. It was only one, including the steel. The steel had that little rotary valve vent so you can get hot air in. Well, on them days, what would happen, it wouldn't run long enough good to get the engine heat up so it actually would work. It still froze the carburetor. Well, you had to shut it off, wait about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It thaw out. Then you might get it going. Might have to do that 2 or 3 times. This is what it's like. So, I'm not trying to bash somebody, but I'm gonna. If you never made a living on a power saw, and you've never built one any other way than the way you're doing it, whether it's right or wrong, does not matter to me. you haven't tasted all the flavors. There's more to it than this. This saw, one more heat cycle, go over a few things. I'm going to bar it up and cut some wood with it. And that is going to be in a very soon video. We're going to see how it runs. Sounds awesome on the bench. I'm loving it. Goodbye.